Hi there. I welcome you to Time Classes. This is a special discussion of the English language section of the IBPS RRB Officer Scale 1 mains mock test we conducted recently. I hope you have taken the test. The reference number is, as you can see on the screen, MT2042011. Well, in this discussion, we shall be discussing in detail every question, so that you learn, from the mistakes you may have made, or you check out whether you are right or wrong in, the various questions. In case you have had any doubts, those shall also be automatically clarified through the discussion. Okay, so let us get started. The first set of questions, as you might remember, is RC. The directions are, fairly straightforward. Read the following passage carefully and answer the questions given below it. Traditional model. So we will attack the passage. We will then read the questions one after the other, answering them, in as great a detail as possible. So here we go. Passage 1. So as you may understand, this is not time and place for the discussion of fundamentals of RC, such other things. We will directly attack the passage, and answer the questions. For the basics or fundas of RC, you should refer to the sessions we have conducted, or rewatch the videos, or check your notes at least. So here we attack the passage and then answer the questions. The annual wealth report released by Credit Suisse a few days ago holds interesting numbers that highlight the inequalities and idiosyncrasies associated with the wealth in India. So the annual wealth report was released by whom? Credit Suisse company. It's an American financial services company. I'm sure you know that. Being an aspirant, then being a reader, you must know such things. So the annual wealth report released by Credit Suisse a few days ago holds interesting numbers that highlight the inequalities. Now you see, they highlight, according to the author, negatives, inequalities. The difference between the disparity between the rich and poor. And idiosyncrasies actually means oddities. So apart from highlighting certain inequalities in our country, which we already know about, the report also contains some idiosyncrasies, some oddities, odd characteristics associated with wealth in India. So we almost know about that, right? Unfortunately, when it comes to India, the divide between the rich and poor never goes away. The gap exists, continues to widen. So it is perhaps about that. It makes little sense. I'm sure you know from grammar classes, little means almost no sense. Without the indefinite article a, it has a negative meaning. So it makes little sense to look at the per capita wealth of 5,976 per Indian when the wealth is highly concentrated at the top. So two things are obvious from this. One, the report highlighted that India's per capita wealth is $5,976 per Indian. Per capita wealth, right? It's like average wealth. It's like average income of Indians. The total income of India divided by the total number of people, the population. So per Indian, the wealth is $5,976, which looks pretty high, right? But the author says it makes little sense to look at this, figure when the wealth is highly concentrated at the top. So the author says this is just an average figure. It does not make any sense. Why? It does not mean every Indian is earning this much. There are, a lot of people at the top earning insanely high numbers or high figures, which means the figure is skewed. It's not correct. If averages, right? When 10 people are there, if 3 people earn, 100 times more than rest of the, people, then obviously, although the rest of the people earn very low, the average seems to be very big, right? Mathematics. So that's what the author says. When, very few people are earning, that much, when most of the wealth is concentrated at the top, there is no sense, there is no meaning in looking at this average wealth of Indians. Okay. Then he also gives the figure here. If the top 0.5% that holds the 5 trillion of wealth redistributed it all, the per capita in number will be actually realized. Okay, now that's an interesting thing. Two things again. So looks like, okay, 0.5% holds almost of the 5 trillion of wealth, which means our economy or our wealth in India is 5 trillion. Of that, most of the stuff is held by just 0.5% of people. Think of, Ambanis or Tatas, etc. So 0.5% people own most of the 5 trillion of wealth. And the author, apart from informing us about this, says if they redistributed or if we redistributed it all among all the people, then this figure of per capita income will be realized, will really happen. But then that's an if situation. The author clearly said if here. Okay. So we understand from this first para that the topic is the credit report annual wealth report by Credit Suisse. And according to the author, the figures are not satisfactory. The figures are not, comforting. Okay. There is nothing great to feel about. I mean, we don't have much greatness to feel about the figures. Okay. They are negative basically. It shows that a lot of Indians are very poor. Let's see what he says in the second para. Since that is imaginary, I told you, the author is talking about the if situation. Okay, since that is imaginary, the number to look at is that 92% of Indian adults have less than $10,000 in wealth. So the real stuff to look at, okay, not that we should look at, the average income or per capita income, we should look at this figure is what the author says. Which figure? 92% of Indian adults have less than $10,000 in wealth. Okay, that's too low, right? Okay, at least that's what the author is suggesting. Not enough to secure retirement, not enough to pay for quality health care, not enough to secure a good quality of life. So, you see, with such a meager income, okay, that 92% of Indians have, okay, they can hardly live a proper life. Okay, then the author says, we have quite a distance to go and we remain a country of the poor. We have quite a distance to go means there is a lot of scope for improvement in Indian economy. And we remain a country of the poor. India is a poor country, still a developing country, right? Unfortunately. Then the author says the 4.4 million adults with more than $100,000 in wealth are the conspicuous consumers of goods and services that continue to entice. Entice means attract. Conspicuous means obvious. Okay. Entice the markets, the sellers, and invoke envy, aspiration in the minds of the 99.5% adults who remain outside this circle. Now, you see again another bad thing that the author tells us or informs us about is there are just 4.4 million adults who have this insanely high income. Okay, that 99.5% of adults do not have. So, technically, according to the author, 99.5% people in India are poor or do not have reasonable income. The top 0.5% which goes to 4.4 million adults, these are the ones who have this high levels of income. And then the author tells us these are the ones who are the obvious consumers of goods and services that continue to attract the market, sellers, and invoke envy, inspiration in the minds of the remaining people who remain outside the circle, means the poor class. This circle refers to these 4.4 million adults who earn more than $100,000 a year perhaps. Okay, so what do we understand from here? The market, all this buying, consumerism that we see, according to the author, is catering only to these 4.4 million adults and not to the 99.5% adults in India who are poor. Okay, they are not the real buyers or consumers of the goods and services, okay, that markets and sellers are providing and that the remaining people are jealous or envious about or aspire to get into. Very sorry state, right? Such a big divide in India. So, we go to the third para. we have issues of inequality to address when we allow roads to be dominated by cars. So the author is continuing the discussion of inequality. Okay, the author is continuing the discussion of inequality. He says we have issues of equality, means inequality problems, okay, to address, means to, take care of when we allow roads to be dominated by cars. You see, that's another truth. Okay, roads are full of cars, not allowing, rickshaw pullers or, the other such poor people to use the roads properly. Okay, and similarly, education and healthcare is devoted to the rich. That's also true. Okay, if you see, other than government hospitals, we only see corporate hospitals catering to the rich people. Okay, so the author says education, even colleges and educations, are for money, moneyed people, sort of people with a lot of money. So education and healthcare to be devoted to the rich, and public utilities disproportionately assigned to the large consumers. So in public utilities, the kind of stuff that the government should provide to everyone are disproportionately provided only to the large consumers, meaning the rich people. So basically the author is trying to say that the rich people are privileged people in the country. Privileged, special people. Even the government is, catering to them. So further the author says, without equitable access, equitable means fair. Okay, like, in communist societies, they talk about, equitable distribution of wealth. That is fair distribution. Remember, equitable means fair. Fair access to basics. Basics means basic needs. Without fair access to basic needs, we are moving in the direction of becoming a country that is deferential, means respectful to privilege. So indirectly the author is saying, if we do not, fairly distribute wealth in our country, we are becoming a country which respects the rich people. So he is saying the entire system is meant for the rich. The poor are being left behind. If we do not do anything, we will continue to do so, which is not good according to the author. Then the author goes back to the report. The report points out that 86% of wealth in India is held as property and other real assets. Okay, now the author is moving to a slightly different point. I hope you noticed that from the great divide in India between the rich and the poor, and how we are catering only to the rich and not to the poor, the author moves to another important point. He says the report points to the fact that 86% of wealth in India is held as property and other real assets. Real assets means real estate. So basically houses, lands and such other things. So 86% of wealth, now that's too big, right? Of the entire wealth that India has, 86% is held only in property, real estate. Financial assets are the non-property assets like bonds, fixed deposits, okay, such other things, okay. Liquid, which can be easily converted into liquid. So financial assets are not instruments of choice when it comes to building wealth. So in India, most people choose to have a property rather than have bonds or fixed deposits or even shares, etc. So that is the sorry state. Is the author negative or positive? We don't know. But the report has told this, that financial assets are not instruments of choice when it comes to building wealth. This is harmful. Now you know. The author is negative about this. This is harmful both to the saver and the nation. So this is not good to the nation. If everybody simply, collects a real estate asset after asset or owns a home after home, okay, if this 86% of wealth being only of property continues, the author says it is harmful both to the saver, to the owner and to the country. Property is indivisible. Now why? He is giving a reason here. Why is it negative? Why is it harmful for the country? Okay, if people continue to have real estate assets or own properties, because one, property is indivisible, chunky means bulky, cumbersome, difficult to deal with, and expensive to hold and sell. That's true. Property, you cannot divide property and separate them, right? Okay, and they are very expensive to hold and sell. It needs consistent expenses for upkeep, meaning to maintain it, a lot of expenditure has to be incurred. earns a small rental yield. That's also true for the value that every property has. The rent is very low proportionately and is unavailable for small ticket needs of a household. So a household owning a house will not be able to do much, okay, if they are in need of small amounts, let's say for a birthday party or for a wedding, etc. You see, they can't do much about the house unless they decide to sell it. Okay, so it's not available for small ticket needs. Small ticket needs. For small amounts, you cannot sell the house, right? That's what he means. So the author, after pointing out the fact that 86% of the wealth in India is, concentrated only in properties, has expressed negativity about it. He said it's harmful and he has given a few reasons. Let's see what he says in the next para. Property also, which means he continues about property. Property also runs the risk of becoming relatively unattractive depending on location and other variables that affect its value. That's also true, right? The property, if is in a posh locality, will have high value. If it is in some a lower level area, let us say somewhere near in the suburbs or maybe even in the slums, it will not have very high value. So he's talking about the relativity in property values. A normal household cannot diversify by holding multiple properties across locations. Now that's another problem. People cannot diversify by owning different houses in different places. Why? It's costly affair. It is also cumbersome. Cumbersome means burdensome to transfer and divide real assets amongst heirs and beneficiaries. See, okay, a father cannot easily divide and transfer the property to his heirs, children and other such beneficiaries. So you see, the author is clearly negative about owning properties for various reasons which are given here and in the last part of the previous para. So let us go to the next para now. Financial assets are markedly superior. Now he is going to financial assets. So from property discussion, which he was very clearly, obviously negative about, the author moves to talk about financial assets. Let's see if he is positive. Financial assets are markedly superior. So the author is positive. So when it comes to financial assets like bonds, okay, fixed deposits and even shares, etc., the author is very positive. He says they are markedly superior. Superior to whom or to what? To property. In managing wealth, as they have a ready and liquid market in which they can be bought and sold. That's true, right? Fixed deposits, bonds, etc. can be easily sold and bought. Shares, for example, can be easily sold and bought. So they can be diversified across many products and issuers, okay, to reduce risk. So if you feel there is a risk, okay, in let us say investing only in this, you can diversify. You can actually invest, for example, in many companies to reduce risk. They can be divided and liquidated in portions as and when needed. See, property cannot be easily divided, but liquid assets can be. They cost much less in terms of maintenance and annual costs, and they can be transferred to the next generation without much hassle. So many positives about financial assets as compared to properties, which the author was clearly negative about. So let us go to the next para, where again he continues to talk about real estate. He says the dominance of real assets, that is property, in wealth portfolio is a disappointing feature. So the author again goes back to the dominance of buying property after property or real estate after real estate. Okay, and he says it's a disappointing feature even after allowing for self-occupied property as a large asset in personal wealth. Even if you consider the fact that you are living in your own home or house, okay, the author says it's still negative. The goal of a household should be to relegate property. Now he is talking about the goal. So he is now getting into advisory mode. So the author says the goal of a household should be to relegate, to push back, okay, to give less importance to property to about a third of its wealth. So a household, whatever its wealth, 1/3 of it should be given only 1/3 should be given to property. Another third, so one more third, okay, to debt products like interest products that can gain you interest, etc. okay, fixed deposits, etc., perhaps. Another third, in debt products will generate income as needed and offer risk protection. The last third in equities are shares, right? So he says 1/3 should be given to property, 1/3 for debt products, 1/3 for equity shares, will offer growth and capital appreciation, which means you will gain a lot of money on your basic investment. And the balance 10%. Okay, so he's not talking about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, like 33%, 33%. Because 10% means he's talking mostly about 30% each. That's what we can infer. So 30% for property, 30% for debt products, and 30% for equities. The remaining 10%, he says, could be held in liquid assets, cash, or other assets of fancy, whatever you fancy. Okay. The skewed means disproportionate asset allocation in the wealth statistics is a big concern. So the author is very greatly concerned about the current disproportionate focus on real estate. So there should be some change, and what change it should be, the author has given advice here. We seem to be blindly building assets for the sake of owning them rather than using them. That's how we are, right? We Indians, we mostly focus on owning a house. The owner of house is considered very great, rich, successful, etc. So that mentality has to change, is what the author says. And let's see what he says in the last para. I think it is the last para, yes. This preference, the author says, also means that a large chunk of our private wealth is idle and unavailable for use by the economy. You see, we think at our level, but the author is thinking at economy's level. Okay, he says such great focus only on owning property, okay, will make it idle and unavailable for use by the economy. Indian economy will not benefit from such owning of properties, or the benefit will not be great. Gold that lies in lockers and houses that remain locked are useless, idle assets that do nothing for a poor and capital starved economy like ours. So you see, gold is another big, asset in our country, right? After land, it's gold. Okay, having a lot of gold, lot of lands is a great thing in India. So the author is negative about those, that much is clear. He further says it is like people building small private reservoirs. Reservoir is a storage, water storage, place, right? It's like a water tank. To carve out running water for their use. So the author is making comparison. Owning property after property is like people building small private reservoir, small private tanks for for themselves, to carve out running water for their use. So if there is a river and you do this for your own private use, this still water is not available to the parched lands. Parched land means down the river, okay, there will be some people who are in great need of money, right? Dry lands, for example. Okay, along the river's trajectory, there will be some dry lands or poor villagers needing water. But because you have, constructed this reservoir for yourself, they will not be able to use the water, or they will not be able to have water for use, is what the author, says in his concluding remark. So author basically talked about the Credit Suisse's report about India's, assets and such other things. And then he moved on to his main focus, which is owning of property, which he is greatly negative about. Instead, he says we should own financial assets, okay, fixed deposits and such other things. Money should be made available for economy is what he basically means. So that's the general gist of the passage. Now that we have understood the passage, let us attack the questions. The first question here is what does the author mean by the phrase, okay, it makes little sense as mentioned in para 1. So he clearly mentioned this in para 1, okay, while referring to the annual wealth report. The author clearly says it makes little sense to look at the per capita wealth of 5976 per Indian, okay, when the wealth is highly concentrated at the top. So why did the author say it makes little sense? Because most of the wealth is highly concentrated at the top. This average income does not indicate correctly what is the real state of affairs. It does not mean every Indian earns that much. Okay, why? Because most of the wealth is concentrated at the top. So that is why the author says it makes little sense. Let us see which option is correct. the top 5% holds 5 trillion of nation's wealth. Now this is not giving a complete meaning. This is true. But that does not by itself mean or tell us that it makes little sense. Let's look at the other options. Okay, and then the author basically also said the top 0.5% holds most of the wealth. Even as a true statement, it is not completely true. You should be wary of, careful about such things. 2 says the inequalities and idiosyncrasies associated with wealth in India are not defined yet. Okay, no, this has not been discussed. Whether they have been correctly defined or not, the author did not discuss, but the author clearly referred to the report and commented on the skewed, values. So this is not correct. 3, the rich have plans to distribute. No, the author was talking about the distribution as an if, condition. If they distributed the wealth, okay, it would actually bring about some, realization of this figure that was given there, right? Okay, so that the rich really plan or not, we don't know. So not clear, and this is not about this little sense point, right? Then 4 says the wealth report released by Credit Suisse is suspect. No, the author is not doubting the report. Suspect means suspicious. It is doubtful, meaning it may or may not be true. That's not what the author said. The author is obviously believing the report, right? Which is why he talked about making little sense if you look at the number by itself as an absolute figure, because a lot of wealth is concentrated on the top. So this again is not correct. So 5 has to be the answer. Let us see. The per capita income figure is misleading. You see, that's the correct answer. Why is it misleading? Because a lot of wealth is, due to skewed distribution. Skewed means disproportionate distribution of wealth. And where is the disproportionate distribution happening? On the top 0.5%, holding most of the 5 trillion of nation's wealth. This is the reason why it is making little sense to the author. So that complete correct meaning is given only in 5th choice, which means the correct answer to first question is choice 5. With which we move to the next question. Why, according to the author, is this circle mentioned in para 2 significant? So basically the question is about this circle. Okay, why is it so important? What is it about? Why is it so great? So let us go to para 2 and see where this circle is mentioned here. So the author mentioned this circle here. What does this circle refer to? You see, he first told us about this figure. The 4.4 million adults with more than 100,000 in wealth are the conspicuous consumers of goods, okay, and services that continue to entice. Obviously, this is the 4.4 million adults who belong to the 0.5% of the top rich people. So these are the ones who are the obvious consumers, etc. is what he said. And they invoke envy, jealousy, aspiration in the minds of the remaining 99.5% adults who remain outside this circle. So this circle obviously refers to the 4.4 million adults who earn more than $100,000 a year, or the top 0.5% rich people in the country. So the question is about this circle. If you look at the choices, the first choice says it refers to, you see, it represents, it refers to. So we are basically looking at the fact. What is true about this circle? What does this circle mean? So does it mean 1? It refers to the Indian adults who have less than $10,000 in wealth? No. This is about the remaining people, right? The poorer guys. So this is not correct. 2, it refers to Indians who have low quality of life despite having high cost of living. This point has never been discussed in the passage, out of scope. 3, it represents 99.5% of adults who have less than, you see, $100,000 in wealth, less than or more than. Okay, so again, this is distortion of the facts given, so this is wrong. 4, it represents Indians who aspire for high life. No, these aspirants are of the remaining people, 99.5% people. We are talking about the top 0.5%, which is obviously 5, because it says it refers to the 4.4 million Indian adults who have more than $100,000 in wealth, which is what is clearly given here. 4.4 million adults with more than $100,000 in wealth. So this circle clearly refers to what is given in choice 5. So with that we move to the third question. What does the author mean by the word deferential? We discussed this, mentioned in third para. We talked about this deference. I told you deference means respectful. So let's look at the third para. Where does the author say this? He says, without equitable or fair access to basics, we are moving in the direction of becoming a country that is deferential to privilege. What is the privilege that he's talking about? It is given here. Okay. Okay, so I hope it is clear. What am I talking about is, we have the privilege point is given here. We have issues of equality and to address when we allow roads to be dominated by cars, education and healthcare to be devoted to the rich, and public utilities disproportionately assigned to large consumers. So basically, the author is pointing to the fact that we are, giving too much importance or too much respect to the privileged rich people by catering, through everything that we are, provide, okay, to them, to those rich people, okay, while the poor are left behind. So this point about deferential to the privilege is that. So the author is not happy about that. Let us look at the answer choices. What does the author mean by the word deferential mentioned in third para? What does he mean now? Let us see. India should focus on equal access to basic needs. Okay, so this is not directly referring to the deferential to the privilege point. 2 says India should not become a country that favors only the very rich. Okay, should not become is advisory, whereas the original point was that we are becoming a country that is deferential to privilege. So it is pointing to a fact, not advising that we should not be that. So this is advisory. 3 says social and physical infrastructure in India cater to largely the privileged. Now this obviously is what the author exactly is trying to tell us. He is pointing to a fact. He is not trying to advise as 2 says. The moment you see should, you should understand it's advisory. The author is not advising there. The author is pointing to a fact. So this 3 has to be the answer. All the infrastructure, everything that we do is catering largely to the privileged, the rich, which is of course not correct, which we later understand from the author's tone. But here the author is pointing to a fact. So this meaning that is asked in this question is 3. 4 says social class distinctions must be abolished. Again, this is must be abolished means advisory in tone. Not correct. 5. There is a huge difference in wealth status between the rich and the middle class. This we already know. But this differential point is not, again, 5. Which means the third question, the correct answer is only 3. We now move to fourth question, which says the author is concerned means worried, that 86% of wealth in India is held as real assets, for which of the following reasons. So we know what we are talking about here, right? The author pointed to the fact that 86% of the wealth is only in the form of physical assets, that is real assets, and he does not like it, okay, for various reasons. So this is asking about the reasons. Why is he so worried about that? So let's look at the reasons. Okay, so where does he bring in the point here? Okay, the report points out that 86% of the wealth in India is held as property, blah blah, and then he says it's okay, then he says harmful, you see, concerned. Why is it harmful? It is indivisible, it is expensive, it needs consistent expenses for upkeep, it earns a small rental yield, and is unavailable for small ticket needs of household. Similarly, he also says it also runs the risk of becoming relatively unattractive depending on location. It is difficult to diversify, and it is also difficult to transfer and divide among heirs and beneficiaries. So many reasons the author gave. This question is asking about which of the following is that reason. Okay, so let's look at one. Property is indivisible. We read that just now, and cannot be sold easily. We read that also. So 1 definitely is the reason. 2 says property needs to be maintained periodically with accompanying costs. That it requires a lot of cost, okay, maintenance, etc. Again was a reason mentioned by the author. So 2 is also the reason. The rent earned from property is not significant. So high rental, okay, does not earn a high rental yield. Small rental yield is what it gets. The author refers to that also. So it means 3 is also true. 4, property cannot be diversified, transferred or divided among beneficiaries. That also has been mentioned here, which means all the 4 are the reasons why the author was worried about holding so much of property. Okay. So 4th, the correct answer obviously is 5. So we go to 5th question, which says, which of the following sentences does not support the case of financial assets? Does not support the case of financial assets. Now it's a double negative question. It's a negative question. Okay, which means anything that supports the financial assets is not our answer. The author mentioned a lot of reasons that support financial assets, right? So anything that support is not our answer, because this question is asking does not support. Does not support. So let's look at the author's reasons for supporting financial assets. He said financial assets are markedly superior in managing wealth as they have ready and liquid market in which they can be bought and sold. They can be diversified. Okay, they can be divided and liquidated. Okay, they cost much less and they can be transferred to the next generation without much hassle. So many positives the author gave. So any of them if is given here is not our answer. Why? It asks for does not support. Which of the following does not support? So if something supports, not our answer. So they have a ready and liquid market in which they can be bought and sold. Author mentioned it clearly. Okay. Where did he mention that? Yes, ready and liquid market in which they can be bought and sold. You see. So this is mentioned. So is a reason. So not the answer. They can be diversified across many products. That also is mentioned. Okay. Where did he mention? Diversified, you see. Then this also is not our answer. They can be divided and liquidated in portions as and when needed. Even that has been mentioned. Okay, divided and liquidated. So this also is not our answer. They cost much less in terms of maintenance and annual cost. That also has been mentioned. They cost much less. Okay. So which means this also is not our answer. 5 says they cannot be transferred to the next generation. They cannot be. The author actually said they can be transferred to the next generation. Can be. Whereas it says cannot be transferred, which means this is not a reason that the author mentioned, which means this does not support. Therefore our answer. Because this is not the reason, opposite to what the reason said in the passage, it has to be our answer. So 5th, the correct answer is 5. With which we move to 6th question. Which of the following wealth distribution portfolios would the author approve of? Author approve of means author would like or love to have. So where did the author talk about wealth distribution? Here, you see, he said, okay, the goal of household should be to relegate, push back the property to about a third of the wealth, another third in debt. Okay, the last third in equities, the remaining 10% in liquid cash. So clearly the author, would approve of 30% for property, 30% for debt products, 30% for equities and 10% for, liquid assets. We have to select a choice accordingly. So this says 60, 20, 10, 10, wrong. This says 30, 30, 30, 10. Now this is obviously true. 30% property, 30 debt, 30 equity and 10 liquid assets. That's exactly what the author proposed. Third says 40% property, 30% debt products, 20% equity, again wrong. 30% property, 40% wrong. 30, 30, 20, 20 wrong. So the answer has to be 2. So 6th question, my dear friend, the correct answer has to be 2. And without any further wastage of time, let us now move to the next passage, which is slightly different because there is a bold word in the passage about which a question might be asked. So read the following passage carefully and answer the questions given below it. Some words and phrases are printed in bold to enable you to identify them quickly while answering questions related to them. So this is another traditional model of RC. So let's attack the passage. Passage 2, here goes. This subtle means not obvious, an intelligent little book. So looks like it is about a book. So this subtle and intelligent little book, The Marketplace of Ideas, Reform and Resistance in American University. So looks like this is about American University or studies. It's about ideas, about a book. Okay, the author says this book should be read by every student thinking of applying to a doctorate. Now, what's a doctorate? This is the highest degree, right? Highest degree in education, PhD. Okay, so that's what, okay, this author says. He says should be read by every student thinking of a PhD degree. Okay, why? They may then decide to go elsewhere. Okay, that's interesting. So the author says it should be read by everybody who is aspiring, for a doctorate. Why? Because they may then decide to go elsewhere. So from this, what do we infer? The book may be negative about, PhD degrees. Okay, the highest degree. Maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, because then they will decide to go elsewhere. Why else will they go elsewhere? If I am an aspiring, scholar wanting to do PhD in a subject, and if I read the book, okay, and if the author says I may go elsewhere, it means the book must have something negative about doctorate, right? That's what it looks like. For something curious has been happening in American universities, and Louis Maynard, a professor in English at Harvard University, captures it deftly. Deftly means very cleverly, skillfully. So the author is giving a reason here. Why would they go elsewhere? Because something curious has been happening in American universities. Curious means interesting. Okay, something interesting is happening in American universities, and the author Louis Maynard obviously, okay, captures it deftly, very skillfully. So the author says there is something interesting happening in American universities, okay, which makes people not pursue a doctorate degree. So even those who want to pursue doctorate degree, if they read this book, they may run elsewhere. So looks interesting, right? So let's see what the second para says. His concern is mainly with humanities. So this doctorate degree is, restricted only to the field of humanities. There are various fields and disciplines, right? There are physical sciences, there are social sciences, there are humanities. And humanities are all about literature, language, philosophy, and such other related subjects. Okay, slightly boring, you might say. So his concern is mainly with humanities. Whose concern? The author's concern. Which author? Not the passage author, the book's author. Okay, literature, language, philosophy, and so on. These are disciplines that are going out of style. Okay, they are going out of style means out of fashion, which means many people are not pursuing literature, languages, philosophy. That's true. Even in India it's true, right? How many people think of doing MA in English or MA in philosophy or MA in literature? Okay, very few. So in American universities, these disciplines are going out of style. And after colon, the author gives proof. 22% of American college graduates now major in business compared with only 2% in history, 4% in English. So college graduates in America, 22% of them go for MBA. Obviously, right? Money. MBA means money. And only 2% are interested in history and 4% go for English. Very sorry state of affairs. And then the author says, however means, something contradictory will come. Many leading American universities want their undergraduates to have a grounding means foundation, in basic canon of ideas. Canon means collection of ideas that every educated person should possess. Now, while this is the case, these are the facts. Very few people are interested in literature, language, philosophy. But all American leading universities want their undergraduates, okay, to have a foundation in the basic collection of ideas which every educated person should possess. Now from however we can infer that the canon of ideas that the author may be referring to is literature, language, philosophy and such other subjects. So apart from MBA, law etc., they should also have some foundation of literature is what every American university wants, leading ones. But then the author says but most find it difficult to agree on what a general education should look like. So everybody wants this foundation, but nobody is in agreement as to what this foundation should look like. So they are not clear on that. At Harvard, which is a famous university in America, Mr. Maynard notes the great books are read because they have been read. They form a sort of social glue. Now here the author is giving an example how, everybody wants the foundation to be there, but nobody is clear as to what it should be. Okay, so there is a very sarcastic example that the author gives related to literature. So when it comes to grade books, okay, everybody reads. Even the MBA grads or even lawyers read. Why? Because they have already been read. It's like a fashion. Okay, it's like saying I watched a Marvel movie. Okay, why everybody watched them? We can talk, right? It's like a social glue, something that brings people together. So it means there is no genuine interest in literature. Okay, these other graduates or people from other areas, they don't have any genuine interest in literature. So the author is pointing to two facts. On the one hand, people are not taking literature as their main study. Two, everybody wants some foundation of literature, language, etc. But okay, nobody is clear as to what it should be like. And what is the state of affairs? Very, very bad, pathetic. People are doing things just for the sake of showing, not with genuine interest or skill. So we already have understood some, we have gathered some understanding, right? How American universities or how American education seems to function. Okay, more people are interested in non-humanities, commercial subjects. So let's see what the next para says. One reason why it is hard to design and teach such courses, okay, is that they cut across the insistence by top American universities that liberal arts education and professional education should be kept separate, taught in different schools. Now he is giving one reason. Okay, why is it so difficult to understand and design such a course where foundation of literature, humanities, etc. are laid? The author says it is hard to design because it cuts across, meaning goes beyond the insistence, the preference, strong preference by top American universities that liberal arts education and professional education. Professional education means MBA, obviously law, and then even medicine. These are professional educations. They should be kept separate. So the author says these people want liberal arts education, which means literature, humanities, etc. And professional education, they are supposed to be kept separate. Because they are kept separate, due to the insistence of American universities, it is difficult to design and teach such course, obviously, right? If separate schools and colleges are there for arts and for sciences and let us say MBA, medicine, etc., how will there be an overlap? Makes sense. Many students experience both varieties. Although more than half of Harvard undergraduates end up in law, medicine and business, future doctors and lawyers must study non-specialist liberal arts degree before starting on professional qualification. Now we need to understand that there is a must here. There is a must. What does must mean? So many students, he says, experience both varieties. Maybe those who do not go to different schools like this. But then the author says, he is giving advice. From must we understand that. He says, although more than half of Harvard undergraduates end up in law, medicine or business, they go to these professional, commercial courses. The author says future doctors and lawyers must study non-specialist liberal arts degree before embarking on a professional qualification. So before they go to MBA or MD or MBBS, for example, in India, they should study some non-specialist, which means liberal arts, language, literature, etc. They should get that degree before going into the professional qualification. So this is the author's advice for a balanced education, maybe. Then he says, besides professionalizing the professions by this separation, so by which separation? The separation of humanities and professional education. Where MBBS and law and MBA such degrees are available. So these courses or etc. are only what? Only commercial courses. So converting them into commercial, it's like the author is trying to say commercializing basically. Or necessity for these degrees to not have that humanities background, etc. So by this separation, they have professionalized the professions. The author says apart from that, besides, top American universities have professionalized the professor also. Now the author moves into another topic. So on the one hand, by separating humanities and these other professional courses, which the author says professionalization. The author says the universities have also professionalized the professor. Now, why is the author bringing in professor? Let's see. The growth in public money for academic research has speeded the process. Speeded which process? The process of academic research, obviously. Okay, because there's a lot of public money. Okay, and the author says federal research grants rose fourfold. Federal research grants are like, funds. Fourfold. They increased 4 times between 1960 and 1990, which means lot of funds are available for research. Okay, research is nothing but PhD scholarship. Okay, high level, studying or researching. The author says, now we know why he is talking about professionalizing the professor. Let's see. He says, a lot of funds have come in, but faculty teaching hours fell by half as research took its toll. Okay, now obviously you must know from reading a lot that people who pursue PhD, okay, also are basically teachers. The researchers are teachers, right? Okay, so PhD in literature is obviously a teacher or a professor. So these research scholars means these people who are after PhD, they also usually teach at universities, etc., as assistant professors, etc. The author says because they are because they have a lot of money, okay, because they are getting a lot of money for academic research, they are now teaching less hours. The teaching hours have come down. Okay, as research took its toll. If A takes toll on B, it means A damages in some way B. Okay, so by focusing more on research, by focusing more on pursuing PhD degree, they have brought down the number of our teaching hours, is what the author is telling us basically. Okay, and then professionalism has turned the acquisition of a doctorate into a prerequisite for a successful academic career. Now you see, now if you want to be a professor or teacher, you should have a doctorate. This is what the author means by professionalization of doctorate or professor. You see, when he said professionalize the professor, this is what he means. It is now compulsory for you to have a PhD to become a professor. It's like compulsory MBA, compulsory MBBS, compulsory law degree will get you, into that profession, right? Like that, if you want to become a professor, you have to have a compulsory PhD. Now, what is this? What does the author say? Professionalism has turned the acquisition of doctorate into prerequisite for a successful academic career. Now, as late as 1969, which means the author is going back to past, a third of American professors did not possess one. Now they have to. So what does the author mean by professionalizing the professor? They must have a PhD degree to become a professor. Now what does this mean? Why is the author telling us this? You see, but the key idea behind professionalism, argues Mr. Menand, is that knowledge and skills needed for a particular specialization are transmissible but not transferable. Transmissible means you can learn them, but you cannot transfer them to somebody automatically. Okay, so the skills and knowledge required for a particular specialization can be learned but cannot be transferred. Okay, so the disciplines acquire a monopoly not just over the production of knowledge but also over the production of producers of knowledge. So what will this happen? More people will begin to have PhDs. Okay, which means less teaching will happen, more PhD pursuing will happen, which means transfer of knowledge will not happen. Okay, which means monopoly of the production of knowledge and also the producers of knowledge will be there in the discipline. Okay, the disciplines means the humanities, whichever discipline it is. So it means the people who mandate that PhD degrees are compulsory for professorship, okay, will begin to have a control on them without allowing them to indulge in teaching and transferring of knowledge. So basically he is worried about teaching coming down. Let's see, he further says, no disciplines have seized on professionalism with as much enthusiasm as humanities. Now he is coming to his main point or main focus of humanities, arts, literature, etc. He says you can, Mr. Menand points out, become a lawyer in 3 years, a medical doctor in 4 years, but median means average time to a doctoral degree in humanities, obviously, in the humanities 9 years. You see, so you can get an MBA in 2-3 years or a doctor in 4 years, but you can acquire a PhD in humanities in 9 years. That's too long, right? So you see now why he is worried about teaching hours coming down? Because they are busy researching. So advertising note, the author is giving a funny note here. to American students, you can get a perfectly good PhD at top British university in under 4 years. So he's comparing American universities and British universities. In American universities, it takes 9 years for a PhD, but in British university, you can get it for 4 years. Maybe the author is pointing out the drawback in American universities, that they are taking unduly long time for this research. Not surprisingly, up to half of all doctoral students in English drop out before getting their degrees. So you see, obviously 9 years is too long a time. Who would wait for that? So many people drop out without finishing their research. And equally unsurprisingly, another negative, only about half of them end up with jobs they entered graduate schools to get. Tenured professorship. As I said, PhD scholarship is about, PhD, research is all about getting into teaching or becoming a professor. And all those guys who, get into this PhD research are after this tenured professorship. In American context, tenured professorship is like a permanent professor job. Okay. We call it permanent job in our country, but they call it tenured professorship. So this is what they are after. But because of the lengthy, period of time for acquiring it, only half of them end up getting it. So a lot of people drop out, up to half. In the remaining half, only about half of them get the main thing they were after, which means it's a lot of waste of research, money, time, etc. Right? And then the author gives the reason. There are simply too few posts. Okay, why are there too few posts? This is partly because universities continue to churn out even more PhDs, which, the number of PhDs is going down, but fewer students want to study humanities subjects. As we already know from the first para, very few people are going after, humanities. So English departments awarded more bachelor's degrees in 70-71 than did 20 years later. You see, that's the number of students aspiring or trying to get into arts is coming down. That's what the author is saying. So this is like a vicious cycle. So number of PhDs, while is going up, the overall dropout rate and length taken for PhD is too much. Okay. And that is having an adverse effect on teaching, which means the teaching hours are coming down. And on the other hand, very few students are going, after such courses. Very bad. Fewer students require fewer teachers. You see, that's the point I was making. Okay, if there are only few students, only few teachers will be needed, which is why, the number of jobs or posts is going down. So, at the end of a decade of thesis writing, many humanities students have leave the profession to do something for which they have not been trained. You see, very bad. It happens everywhere, even in India. The key to reforming, now the author is getting into solution. What should we do then? He says, the key to reforming higher education, concludes Mr. Menon, is to change the way in which the producers of knowledge are produced. Otherwise, academics will continue to think dangerously alike, increasingly detached from the societies which they study, investigate and criticize. So we should alter the way in which producers of knowledge are produced. Otherwise, they will be in the same bored, detached manner. Okay, so there will be not much demand for such courses. Finally, the author says the academic inquiry, which is research, at least in some fields, may need to become less exclusionary and more holistic. Another piece of advice. Less exclusionary means we should actually be inclusive. More holistic means overall development should be focused on. Yet, quite how that happens, Mr. Menon does not say. So the the passage author is commenting on the book's author's point. He says how that happens, we don't know. In reality, baby and bathwater may go out together. So while trying to solve this problem, we may throw out the good thing also. This is what the idiom means. To throw the baby out with the bathwater means to throw out a good thing along with a bad thing. And the final sentence says public exasperation means frustration with academic introversion. Introversion means this detachment the author referred to here. Okay. May lead to the loss of some independence, the most precious right of academics in free society. So this overall, for problem may actually result in extreme negativity where, with only a few academics, will be left and they may lose their freedom of research, which is not good. So that's a fairly complex passage actually. I hope you understood it. Let's now attack the questions, which are fairly straightforward. It can be inferred that Louis Menon deplores means complains about in his book that, what does he complain about? We know that, So his concern is mainly with the humanities. Okay, literature, language, philosophy, etc. These disciplines are going out of style. So that's what the author of the book complains about, right? Which means the answer has to be, okay, fewer students read this book, no. Humanities have not changed, no. English will cease to be a subject of study, no. Humanities are not popular or fashionable. C is extreme actually, and it's not only about English, right? So 3 is wrong. 4 is correct. Humanities are not popular and fashionable anymore. 5th says US government is responsible for this decline. Which decline? Not our answer. So 7th, 4 is the correct answer. 8th, according to the passage, what additional qualification should future doctors and lawyers possess before obtaining a professional qualification? This, if you remember right, okay, was clearly given in this para. The author said, okay, here it is. Many students experience both varieties. Although more than half of Harvard undergraduates end up in law, medicine, business, future doctors and lawyers must study non-specialist liberal arts. This is what the author advised. And this is what the question is. What additional qualification should? The author said must. Same thing. Okay, what is that then? They must obtain a non-specialist liberal arts degree. So this is the answer. Non-specialist liberal arts degree. So 1 has to be the correct answer. 2 says they must work in hospitals and courts. No. They must do motivation. No. They must study other language. No. None of the above. No. So answer has to be 1. 8, 1. 9th, according to the passage, why did teaching hours fall by half? This again was given directly. Okay, where was it given? Okay, besides professionalizing profession, top American universities have professionalized the professor. The growth in public money for academic research has speeded the process. Okay, federal research grant, blah, blah, blah. Okay, meaning research focus is there, but faculty teaching hours fell by half as research took its toll. So because of research, what happened? The number of teaching hours came down, and this is what the question is about. Why did teaching hours fall? Because of focus on research. So what does 1 say? More and more students choose business studies? No. The US government slashed funding for research? No, it's actually funding increased. 3, doing research has gone out of style? No. Opposite. There was unhealthy competition between teaching and research. Unhealthy competition? No. Okay, it's like teaching and research are separate. No. Researchers are themselves teachers because they are focusing more on research. Teaching is coming down is what the author meant. So there is no unhealthy competition between teaching and research. So this is wrong. 5th, research was prioritized to the detriment, means harm of teaching. Perfect. This is what exactly the author meant. So 9th, the answer has to be 5. With which we move to 10th question. The statement academic inquiry, at least in some fields, may need to become less exclusionary and more holistic, can mean that academic study or research, this was given here, right? Less exclusionary and more holistic. The author was trying to say inclusiveness and overall development, which means 1 should aim at doing inclusive and all-round development or good to the society possible. Should focus more on their subject? No. Whatever the motive should concern itself with the result? No. So only 1. Clearly answer is obviously 1, right? So 10th, 1 is the answer. 11th, one of the most important reforms in higher education envisaged by Mr. Menand. Okay, so Menand suggested one great, envisaged means imagined. Some great suggestion, right? Reform. In which para? Here. The key to reforming higher education, concludes Mr. Menand, is to alter the way in which producers of knowledge are produced. Simple. So, is to alter the way curriculum? No. Is to reorient the aims? No. Is to alter the way in which producers of knowledge are produced? Direct lifting, which means easy question. So 11th, 3 has to be the answer. To restructure the pay, etc. was not discussed. So 11th answer has to be 4. With which we move to 12th question. Which of the following, select the word which is most similar in meaning to the word given in bold as used in the passage. Exasperation, I told you, actually means frustration. Okay, so let's look for a negative word. Propitiation means trying to, please somebody or trying to gain favor of someone. Wrong. Placation means trying to calm somebody. Resolution is final decision or solution of a problem. Conciliation is like, compromise. Okay, mediation. So provocation is the only negative word, which means, instigation or, irritation. So provocation is the closest one that we can select in this context. So we go to the next, so this is where the word was used, and the answer, as I said, is provocation. So let's go to the next question type. Okay. I was slow because the passage was complex, could not help it. So next set of questions is, in the given passage, there are blanks, so close test, each of which is numbered. Against each, 5 words are suggested, one of which fits the blank appropriately. Find the appropriate one. So close test is given. Let's hope that it is easy. Here we go. Okay, as you may have attended in my sessions and understood, we usually look for clues for each blank and then go attacking the questions. Based on the clues, we decide the answer. So let's see, like many cities in former East Germany, Leipzig dash after, so we need a verb here, after the fall of Berlin Wall in 1918. So the Berlin Wall fell. I hope you know the East Germany and West Germany problem. The wall fell, and after that wall fell, like many cities, Leipzig, dash. Okay, hitting a low of 4,37,000 residents. Low. So which means the population came down is what he means. So if population comes down, what is the verb for a city that can express population coming down? Okay, we can say reduced in size. We'll look for the idea, reduced in population. So that is what our clue is for the first blank. Then the author says, but then clubs and artists started moving into dash warehouses and factories. Warehouses are like workhouses or storehouses. But, now what does the but mean? Something opposite is happening. First, the number of residents came down. But then what happened? Clubs and artists started moving into dash warehouses and factories. So here we need a description for warehouses and factories. Now what kind of warehouses and factories must they have been? Considering the fact that the number of number of people in the city came down, obviously they must have been vacant, right? Empty. So that must be our clue for 14th blank. For the first blank, reduced in population. For 14th, vacant. Because only if they are vacant, okay, people will move into them, right? Okay. Maybe the author is now going to talk about increase of population. Now the population has risen. You see, I told you that. Risen to 5,90,000, and the city has come to be known as the New Berlin or Leipzig. Okay, so this is the, nickname given to the city. Okay. So you see, from reduction in population, because of various reasons, there is an increase in population. So that seems to be the theme. That dash started as a criticism. Okay, so that dash, that refers to what? Obviously the title. A relative pronoun usually refers to an immediately mentioned noun. So that is a relative pronoun. So, or relative, or a demonstrative adjective. Okay, demonstrative adjective, not relative pronoun. So that refers to immediately mentioned noun. So Leipzig or New Berlin is mentioned, which means we are looking at nicknames. That nickname. So 15th blank should go with, should have nicknames or nickname, because or is used here. Nickname is okay. So that nickname started as a criticism. So somebody criticized the city by calling it Leipzig. A lot of hype is there because this population is increasing, right? Okay, but now it's a brand. Maybe in the warehouses and factories, a lot of economic activity happened. You see, the author uses the word brand. Explains Katja Haleman, a theatre producer sitting in a chic bar. Chic bar means high-end bar. Pilot in the city center. So it means due to increase in population, there is a lot of economic activity that happened. Her sardonically means mockingly, insultingly titled theatre project explores the dash city and its diverse population. Now what kind of city is it now? There is a population is increasing and economic activity is also increasing, as we can understand from hype, etc. So obviously we are looking at, okay, economically developing. Okay, economically and population wise. So population wise and economically developing. That's the word that should go into 16th blank. So we have hints and we have also got our first para clear. Let's go to the second para. In former car repair shop down the road in Grunau. What is Grunau? Is it a part of Leipzig? Let's say a working class district in the city. So it's a working class district. It's not the high-end city center place. You see, we are talking about city center and high-end stuff. Okay, but we are now going to we have moved to low-end stuff. Okay, working class district where maybe that kind of high economic activity may not be there, because that's how working class districts are, right? Okay, there is no sign of dash. So that kind of, chic life that is expressed by Leipzig and New Berlin and this increasing economic activity, etc., is not there in this place. So there is no sign of, such a thing happening elsewhere in the city center. Such a thing happening elsewhere. So what is happening elsewhere in the city center is not happening here. Okay. Now we can also understand the 17th from the remaining part. Let's see. Volunteers are unloading crates and arranging oranges. Leeks is a vegetable type. Cheese donated by supermarkets. So you see, it's a working class place. Poor people live. Okay, a lot of stuff is donated by supermarkets. They are arranging for these things in the warehouses maybe. Okay. About 1.5 million Germans rely on food banks like this one. So poor people, living on donation. So the author is not talking about high economic activity here. Something of lower end, not theatrical stuff. Where the needy can get full week shop, for $2.5 per person. So the author is talking about poor people getting, donations. So for survival. It's hard being poor in a rich country, the author says Werner Wehmer, the director. You see on TV how you are supposed to live. You see the people in cafes you can't dash to go into. So obviously now that it is about poor people, can poor people go into, cafes? No. Which means they can't afford. They can't spend that much money. So the hint for 18th question is afford. To go into, you go to a Christmas market and can't afford things. You see, afford makes sense. Similar scenes can be observed all over Germany. Okay, so the entire Germany is full of such cities. Globalization and liberalizing hard labor market overhaul of the early 2000s were big factors in Germany's economic success, but they also made the country more dash. So globalization helped the country in becoming rich, but also they have also made the country dash. Now dash, this should be looked at from this part. So on the one hand, as we understood from the first para, there are a lot of rich people and rich things happening, theater, chic bars and all. Okay, here there are poor people. It means, the country must have become more unequal. Okay, more inequality has come in. So word referring to that should come in 19th. I hope that is clear. Okay, so with that we go to last blank. The share of households below the official poverty line of 60% of average earnings, that is 917 euro a month after tax for a single person, was 15.7 last year compared with 14.7 in 2005, which means, the below poverty percentage has gone up. So basically more poor people are there. Okay, even though should be followed now by positive. This is negative, right? Which means even though should be followed by a negative idea. Okay, so even though should be followed by a positive idea. So even though unemployment is at a record, when is unemployment not a problem? When it is at low level. So it should be low here. Record low. That's what. Record high or record low. This is easy to answer, right? Because it should be positive, it must be at record low. A large government study published last year showed that 40% of German workers had seen almost no increase in the net real wages since mid-90s. So this is the para. We have all the hints, clearly laid out. We will now start answering the questions. The first question is here. Like many cities in former Germany, I told you Leipzig dash. Okay, what was the hint that we got? Okay, reduced in population. So which of these words means reduced in population? Swelled actually means opposites. Swelled means increased, right? Rotted means decayed, unrelated. Drank and sank are unrelated. So shrank. Shrank means, reduced in size. So when you talk about city reducing in size, you can say shrank. Number of people coming down. So for 13th question, obviously the answer has to be 3. For 14th, Now what did I say? Moving into vacant. That was our hint. Vacant. So which of these words means vacant? Looted, no. Refurbished means renewed. Upgraded means made it, better than it was before. Isolated means separated, not vacated, vacant. Abandoned means vacant. So fourth is the correct answer. So 14th, the correct answer has to be 4. I hope you got it. Isolated is not the answer because isolated means separated, far away from, the crowd. 15th, what was the clue for 15th? If you remember, that referred to these, nicknames. So that nickname started as criticism is what I said. So our hint was nickname. Which of these words means nickname? Pseudonym is a false name assumed by authors to hide their original identity. So not true. Appellation is like a title given to people. Designation is your designation, manager or senior manager, etc. Title is again general. Moniker means nickname. So the answer has to be 1. That Leipzig or New Berlin moniker is what the author meant. So 15th, the answer has to be 1. 16th, okay, 16th. If you remember 16th, what did we discuss? The hint was population and economic development is happening. So when population and economy both swell, okay, what do we say? We say booming. Swelling is only talking about population explosion, but we are talking about economic explosion also. So booming is the better answer than swelling. Vacating opposite, dying and emptying opposite. So 16th has to be 1. Clear? We go to 17th. What was the hint for 17th? As I said, the hint was no sign of, what was happening elsewhere. This high-tech stuff that is happening, in, the rest of the city is not happening in this low working class place. And this example also makes it clear. They are all poor. They are all starving actually, basically looking for, donations. So that, something is missing here. So no sign of what? That something. What is that something? Type? No. Hype? Yes, possible. Low? No. Boom? Boom talks about both economic and population explosion, right? So this is partially correct. Because population here also is increasing, right? You see? So boom is not correct. Bumper, unrelated. So the answer has to be hype. That hype is missing here. So 17th, the correct answer has to be 2. We now go to 18th. And I told you 18th, the answer is obvious from afford. It has to be afford. Binum means make numb. Careen means to, turn very quickly and, slightly swift manner. Decline, emaciate. Decline is known, right? Emaciate means to become weak. So the answer for 18th question is 1 afford. And what about 19th? But they also made country more, I told you, more inequality has, come in. So the only word that is correct is 5 unequal, more unequal. You see, that's what happened to the country. Globalization is like that. Frightful, fearful, no. Glossy, shiny, no. Hot-headed actually are words or phrases that are used to encourage us. Not an important word, forget it. Impervious means something that cannot be penetrated, not related. So 19th, 5 is the correct answer. With that, we move to 20th question, which we already know. The answer is low, and here we have low. So obesity, peace, query, radiance, not the answers. So the answer has to be low. So let's go to the 21st question now. Now 21st question is a para jumble question. And E is fixed. The directions say rearrange the following sentences, 7 sentences in a proper sequence to form meaningful para. Then answer the questions given below them. Sentence E is fixed, which means whatever the answer, 7 places are there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is not there. So in these 7 places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. E is fixed. E is in its original place. Where does E come usually? Here. So E is originally in 5th place. Remember this. We have to just rearrange the rest of them. So let's go to the para and attack it. So we have the arrangement here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have E already in its original place. So E I am putting it here. So let's, as you may have attended my session and know that we usually look for, first reading means topic, theme, etc. should be identified. In the second reading, you should look for independent sentence. Then you should go after crucial pairs, links, etc. I'll make it fast, don't worry. We have already spent a lot of time. So once the fire zones are clear, which fire zones? This is not independent sentence. Okay, so this cannot start. Okay, so once the fire zones are clear, the RSPA Australia, RSPA stands for Royal Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. It's like our PETA, okay, or our Blue Cross Society in India. So the RSPA Australia Inspectorate will begin the difficult job of entering affected areas and assessing any injured animals. So looks like there is a fire and some animals were injured. Okay. B says they. Who is they? We don't know. So this cannot also start. They continue to help communities affected by bushfires. Continue to help. Look at that. Through, and we are talking about communities, which means peoples. Whereas here we are talking about animals. We should note such differences. Through recovery programs and emergency assistance. See, it is now estimated. It is now estimated. Now after what? Okay. Over 1 billion animal lives have been lost to the fire and over 10 million hectares of land have been scorched. So this is talking about the loss from the fire, perhaps, you see, to the fire. So loss, general loss is what this paragraph talks about, because millions of hectares of land means even human land. Okay. So this also cannot start. D, heroic inspectors and staff from RSPE Australia are operating in evacuation centers and regions affected by bushfires to help protect animals, including evacuating them to safety. So this RSPA is introduced here. You see, RSPA Australia means now it is introduced. Whereas A said the RSPA Australia, which means already introduced, which means D should come before A. And both D and A are about animal rescue. You see, affected areas and assessing any injured animals. And D says heroic inspector blah blah blah. Okay, affected evacuation centers and regions affected by bushfires to protect animals, which means DA is a crucial link. We can already think of that. Now E, we already know is here. Let's read it. The organization. Which organization? We don't know. The organization, can it be RSP Australia? It could be. The organization's register, find, reunite service which reunifies people. No. RSPA is about animals, right? But this organization is about people. There's a difference. Which means this organization is not RSPA and A and D are not connected to E. I hope you notice that. So the organization means some other organization. Register, find, reunite service which reunifies people who have been separated in the bushfire emergency has registered over 30,000 people and taken more than 5,000 inquiries. So this organization is about human rescue, whereas D and A are about RSPCA, animal rescue. So there seems to be a difference. Let's see 5. Since September 2019. Okay, again, because this says the organization, it cannot start. And we already know E is anyway in 5th place. Since December 2019, wildfires have been roaring through Australia, okay, causing national crisis and widespread destruction and devastation. This we already know. It has been in the news. So this is obviously introductory in nature and independent in nature. So F should start. So I'm putting F here. Since 2019, wildfires have been roaring through Australia, causing national crisis of widespread destruction and devastation. Okay, and G says Red Cross teams have responded to 30 emergencies and supported well over 20,000 people through the efforts of more than 1,600 volunteers and staff. So we have another organization here, Red Cross teams. Red Cross organization. So the organization in E is Red Cross. Okay, and this they in B has to be Red Cross teams. So you see, we clearly know this is about communities, right? And even E is about community. Okay, so which means this they is mentioned in B, therefore they should come first. Okay, and then only we can say the organization's register, find, routine. Okay, so which means GBE is one crucial link. I repeat, GBE. Why can't E come after, why can't E come immediately after G? Because it says the organizations register, find, reunite, which means it can come immediately after or later. But because B says they continue to help communities, that they referring to Red Cross teams should come immediately after, right? So GBE is one crucial triplet. Okay, so we already have E here, which means GB have to come here. It's like I told you, logical reasoning puzzle, you should deal with it like that. So GBE come here. Now can DA come here? No, which means DA can come only here. So I'm putting DA here. So what remains? Only C. Where can C come? C can come only here. So I used a logical technique here. I hope you understood. So FCGBEDA is the answer. Okay, FCGBEDA is the answer. So okay, FCGBEDA. Okay, I hope you got it. I was very fast, just like we do in the exam. I want you to understand that also. So we go to question number 1. Okay, let's put the order first. What was it? FCGBEDA. And this question says what is the 6th sentence after rearrangement? 6th is after E, right? So D has to be the answer, which means 21.3 is the answer. And among the following pairs, which one is formed with the 2 consecutive statements? So let's see, FCGBEDA, right? Okay, what do we have here? FCGBEDA, right? Okay, so DA is there here. EG, no. AB, no. FD, no. BF, no. Okay, DA, yes. So DA is here, so answer has to be 4. 23, second sentence is obviously FC. C is the answer. 1, easy. 24, fourth sentence. What is fourth? FCGBEDA. Fourth has to be B. Where is B here? 4. 25, third sentence, FCG. Third sentence is G obviously. So the answer is 2, with which we go to the new model, which is in this question, 2 columns are given containing 3 sentences, phrases each. First column, second blah blah, second column blah blah. Match them properly. So this is a typical common question these days. They should be both meaningful and grammatically correct. So we should match them. So let's see. The A says the coach professionally assists the career development. Okay, so far no. Of, yes, of another individual outside normal relationship. So A is possible. Next, B says the program builds on the knowledge you have gained so far and focuses on the aspects of business. Possible. Okay, so BD is possible. Then the workshop combines training and consultancy, nurturing the enthusiasm for learning and learning in the participants. So participants workshop makes sense. So which means CF is also possible. So what do we have here? AE, BD, CF. Where do we have that? Here. So the correct answer to 26th question is AE, BD, CF, 4. We now go to 27th. Let's see. Urbanization, fairs and rituals combined with the creation of new bureaucracy led to the development of textile industry during the reign of Shri Krishna Deva Raya. Possible. Led to the development, right? Yes. So looks like these are easy as compared to RCs, etc. You see. So B says it was said that during the time of fairs and festivals, decorative ornaments and precious what? No. Precious metals? Yes. Precious metal plates studded with precious stones, blah blah blah. So BF possible. C says in ancient times, development of agriculture and industry and emergence of money economy in a big way paved the way for growth of internal and external trade. Makes sense. Economy, trade. So CE, they are easy, right? These are easy. So AD, BF, CE. Where do we have that AD, BF, CE? Here. So 27th question, answer is 5. 28th question. Let's see. J. Krishnamurti, that Jiddu Krishnamurti. The purpose was, Jiddu Krishnamurti's purpose was to set humankind unconditionally free. Okay, just as human species have evolved, blah blah, no. Ignorance and abide, no. Free from the destructive limitations of conditioned mind. Makes sense. Okay, spiritual stuff. So I hope you understood that. Okay, it should make both grammatical and meaningful sense. So AF possible. Then B says Ramana Maharshi recommended self-inquiry as the principal means to remove. Okay, just as no. Ignorance, yes. Ignorance and abide in self-awareness, blah blah. Again, spiritual stuff. So BE possible. C says Aurobindo argues that world can evolve and become a new world with new species just as human species have evolved. Makes sense. Easy peasy. Okay, so A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. 2 is the answer. 29th. Steve Jobs not only represents a brand but also of perception, no, a generation of users who follow in the footsteps of his creativity. Yes, there are many followers of Steve Jobs in Apple company. You know that AE is possible. Now B, the world of visionary imagination stems from the expansion of perception outside the limits of conventional knowledge. Easy. BD. Okay, now there are too many fish in the sea to get hung up on studying a company or industry that is just too hard to understand. So he says there are too many other options. Go there. That's what he means. So CF is possible. Where do we have that AE, BD, CF? Here. So 29, the answer has to be 1. 30, in addition to his primary business pursuit, Musk has, what do we have here? Fast and, okay, Musk has envisioned a high-speed transportation system and named it Hyperloop. We know this already. Okay, so A is possible. Then, in the history of humankind, no pestilence has spread. Pestilence means disease, plague-like disease, has spread as fast as and as far as novel coronavirus. So BD possible. C, the Great Wall of China is the collective name of a series of fortification systems, okay, generally built across the historical northern border of China. Again, very easy. CF. Where do we have that? Only here. So 30 also easy. 31st onwards, new model. So what is this new model? In each of the following questions, a word is given followed by 3 statements in which the said word has been used. Okay, read the sentences carefully and decide in which of the given sentences the word or form has been used correctly. So correct usage of the word. So the first question is here. Okay, so what does ambit mean? Ambit actually means scope or limitations. So let's see where it has been used correctly. Where it is not used correctly, not our answer. Unions have worked successfully to extend the ambit scope of union recognition. Perfect. No error there. The adjudicator must understand ambits means limitations of his powers. Again correct. 3 says the proposed new law would bring change beyond the ambit, beyond the limitations of sales of the company. So all 3 seem to be correct, which means the answer for 31st question has to be 5. With that we move to 32nd. Riparian. Riparian is related to the banks of the river banks. It's an adjective for river banks. So the government started the evacuation operations near the riparian lands to save people and livestock from floods. So when the river floods, obviously the riparian people or lands will have trouble, right? So this seems to be correct. The old lady was hospitalized because she slipped on the riparian bathroom. Riparian bathroom? No sense. Slippery bathroom? Yes. Riparian does not mean slippery, so wrong. The government provided vast area outside the city as Dhobighat to dry the riparian clothes. Again senseless. So the answer has to be only 1, which is 3. Okay, so for 32nd question the answer is 3. Then we have 33rd question here. Okay. Buck. What is buck? Buck could mean coin, buck could mean many things. It's a very idiomatically used word. Okay. Big buck means big money. So let's see. Celebrities in advertising in newspapers and on TV channels are guaranteed to pull in a big buck. No. We usually say big bucks. Big buck means lot of money. Not a buck, big buck. This is wrong. The inquiry commission concluded in its report that the buck stops with the boss. Buck stops with something means responsibility stops with something. That's an idiomatic expression. So this is correct, which means the responsibility stops with the boss. Let's see what 3 says. Unemployment in the area has bucked the trend. Buck the trend means reverse the trend. That's another idiom. Buck the trend means reverse the trends. Correct. Which means only 2 and 3 are correct, which means the answer has to be 3. With which we now go to 34th question. Offer. Offer. You know what offer means. I feel bad that I didn't offer them any food. Give them any food. Okay. Then 2 says my offer to give them food. No. This is not how we use. We can use offer as a verb but not noun. When you offer food to someone, it cannot be used as a noun. So this is wrong. My offer to give them food. You should actually say I offered them food, but it was mistaken as rude. That's how it should be. So 2 is wrong. She was offered a job. Correct. So it means only 1 and 3 are correct, which is third option. With that we go to peace. What is peace? You know, absence of war, no fighting, etc. After years of civil war, most of the population long for peace, means desired for peace. Perfect. Most spiritual leaders regard peace to be something that we should all work for. True. She is very good at keeping the peace within the family. Perfect. So all three are correct, which means 35. The answer is 5. With which we move to the next set of questions, grammar. Okay, this is error identification question, so let's not waste time in reading the directions. Here's the 36th question. The hero was told not to resume shooting until he had cut his hair. Until he had cut his hair. Wrong. See, when you use until, okay, let us say, let us take a present tense. Okay, the hero is told, okay, not to resume shooting until he cuts his hair. So this cut should be there in present tense. Simple present tense should be used along with until when it comes to present tense. But this is in the past tense, was told. So these cuts become simple past. What is simple past of cuts? Cut. So it should be just cut, not past perfect. Past perfect tense is wrong in fourth option. Instead of had cut, it should be just cut. The hero was told not to resume shooting until he cut his hair. With which we go to 37th question. No matter weak we are, no matter how weak we are, that's the general expression, guys. In standard English, we say no matter how weak we are sure of our victory. So answer is 2. Very easy. 38th question says, we were glad to knew. No, we were glad to know. To is always followed by the original form of the verb, the V0 form. So to know and not to knew. Okay. So 38, 2. 39, since the management failed to concede for their demands, no. Concede is followed by to. Always remember, concede to means succumb to or accept their demands. So it is to and not for, which means option 2 is the correct answer. And the last question of the day is, power is dangerous because it removes people from the realm means scope or limitations or sphere of rational and the predictable, and places them on the pedestal vulnerable not only to others as also, no, but also. So it has to be but also, very simple. So grammar questions were very easy as compared to the RC and close test. I took as much time as necessary, guys. I hope you understood everything. With this, we go to the end of the session. Time to say thank you, goodbye. So thank you. Hope to see you again. Goodbye.